just listening to some Hollywood Undead on the way down to Sam's. It reminded me last night, just watching TV going to sleep. There was a show, I think it was called Raising a Effing Star. It was about, this one was about this child singer, I guess, taking voice lessons, and, you know, the father buying a vocal coach and just singing the national anthem at this game and all nervous about it. It's a really nice story, but that shouldn't be the exception. That shouldn't be, we're watching somebody on TV do that. If that's what you want to do, your child wants to be a singer, you want to make music, but you're limited by finances, by resources, you don't have enough time, you have to, work your regular job. Why? It's obviously interesting to a lot of people because it's on one of the billion channels or television shows on television that people are mindlessly consuming, instead of actually grabbing the opportunity to do it yourself. Then there's no excuse for not doing it. Except you are comfortable where you are, and it's uncomfortable changing your mind, and it's uncomfortable going against what you've been taught and what you've been told is reality. Most people just accept everything. Most people accept the science that they're taught because they believe that it's coming from a reliable source, and they believe it's true and accurate, which is true. Nothing against any of the teachers. They're teaching what they were taught to teach. I was talking to my neighbor. He said he graduated high school in 55 and they were just starting to learn about globe earth. Sometime in the 50s, the change started happening, but it changed organically. It changed at the speed of life. And then we started looking at the moon and the space race, and all of a sudden our attention was focused outside. Through 45, through the war, they didn't teach heliocentric Earth. They didn't teach the curvature of the Earth. They didn't teach that you're spinning 1,000 miles an hour, but you can't feel a thing. Picked up Elijah from football last night, and he went to get in the car and buckle his seatbelt, but he couldn't pull it. The inertia lock was on. So he says, "Dad, would you take your foot off the brake? The seatbelt's not coming out." I said, That's not how that works. Typical 14-year-old. He said, I said, "Do you want to know how it works?" He said, "No, I don't care." Typical 14-year-old. I see him over there pulling on the seatbelt like that until the inertia lock kicks in. And he says, "Oh, now I understand. Now I get it." I said, "Well, then explain it to me." "No, I don't have to tell you what it is." So that's inertia. He said, "Oh, I know what the law of inertia is." I think he said an object in motion stays in motion until it's acted on by an outside force. I said, that's awesome. I'm glad you know that, and that's called an inertia lock or an inertial lock. And that's how it works. It works on the principle of inertia, which got me thinking about the Olympics and those, I don't know what they're called, the balls where they throw them, they spin their bodies. That's inertial force, right? That's going through, and the only reason it's continuing to go in a circle because the athlete is still holding on to it. But when he wants to release it and launch it, and it doesn't keep spinning around him, it doesn't matter where it is, it lets go tangentially to where it was released, where that force stopped exerting itself on it, making it go in a circle. I thought about the Enterprise ride. What kind of ride would that be if you got spinning on the ground, and then you go vertical, and all of a sudden to the very top, each car releases and it launches you onto a track or something? You would shit a brick. But that is inertia. And that's literally what you're saying. I don't care how big or small the radius of the Earth is, wherever you want to fly an airplane 7 miles above it. That inertia, call it gravity, the Earth is not freaking moving. You are flying level. You have to ascend to your cruising altitude and descend to land. Otherwise, you're flying in a straight line. You are Just admit it. Believe it. That you are. No airline pilot is maintaining that flight to hug the curve of the earth. I had some guy tell me yesterday, yeah, no, you're flying level to the ground. Well, you can't fly level to the ground if you're going around a curve. You would have to make that curve, but the atmosphere is spinning with us. Well, if it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour and you're on the equator and you're flying east to west, you're fighting 1,000 mile an hour headwind if the atmosphere is spinning with you. That doesn't make sense. So the inertia, no matter, a merry-go-round, that's why you can jump out of airplanes, because you're not going to continue moving with the airplane. What is it, LZ-71, the Zeppelins of World War II, it took them more than 24 hours to go from Germany to New Jersey. The Earth allegedly made one entire rotation, right? So they would have seen day and night, but it never got any closer to them because it took them that long. We take flights for granted because we have amazing engineers that understand that the Earth is flat implicitly, and calculation-wise, you couldn't fly a 747 that far. You need over 1 million gallons of fuel, and they only have 50,000. Come on, just do the math. Most people don't care. Just like Elijah didn't care what the inertia lock was until scientific method. He figured it out himself, and then he put 2 and 2 together. Doesn't matter if you were taught something wrong. That's not your fault, right? You didn't do anything. You actually should have credit because you did more. If you went all the way through high school, and I'm not knocking anybody, but a lot of the stuff that they learn, you don't need to learn as a functioning adult. Why is it grandparents didn't graduate high school but were still productive? The Amish, homeschooling. Just stop. Put down your Starbucks coffee. Stop consuming the nonsense on mainstream media. Stop consuming mindless entertainment. Stop giving your money to these people and take that money and go raise a effing star and go get your kids a private education. What Marcus Aurelius said.
When Marcus Aurelius was giving thanks and listing out the lessons that he learned from people in his life, he mentioned a lesson from his great-grandfather: to avoid the public schools, to hire good private teachers, and to accept the resulting costs as money well spent. The upper class 2,000 years ago had realized that the public school system is a joke, and it hasn't improved much since then either. It's probably only gotten worse. In Nazi Germany, one of the main focuses were the Hitler Youth, where the Nazi Party could take German children from their parents and indoctrinate them into the beliefs of the state. The kids got to go camping and learn how to shoot and do all sorts of fun things with kids their own age. The goal of this was to make sure that your child was no longer your child, but the state's child. You may not agree with everything that the Nazi Party is doing, but your children will, because this is all they really know. If you talk badly about the party in private, your children are live-in spies for the Nazis, ready to report you in exchange for rewards from who they feel is their real parent. The American statesman Frederick Douglass once said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." I feel the public school system is designed to build broken children right from the beginning, so things are easier to control. Now maybe it's because the population is too big and we need people to fall in line in order for society not to collapse, or maybe it's simply the evils of capitalism, that we need drones that can think enough to work and consume things, but not enough to question why they're sad all the time. And before we start thinking communism solves this problem, let's not forget how much that ideology quashes public discourse, free speech, and free thinking. This is something that the great-grandfather of Marcus Aurelius noticed 2,000 years ago, and it's something that's been consistent ever since. But what's the solution? Not everyone can afford private tutors, and society does need drones to function, doesn't it? I think if you're here listening to ideas about philosophy, you aren't an average drone. That being said, money can still be a barrier. So I think the solution is this: we need to encourage free thinking in our children. Tell them that it's okay to question things, and encourage reading and learning outside of the school. This way, the generation that we raise will slowly break out of the mold that's being set by the public school system. And hopefully, we can build a more conscious global society day by day with freedom of thought for all individuals.
Change the culture. There should be equal education for everybody available no matter what. Inner city, we shouldn't have poverty and famine and drought or charity water. None of this stuff should be happening. None of it. And all it takes is you to be humble enough to admit you were wrong, believing what you were taught, and say, what if this is possible? It doesn't matter to you if you believe it, but it matters greatly to me because I know there is more out there than what they're telling us. And just that Rogan debate between Eddie Bravo and Rogan about Flat Earth that I did that video on, I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious. Everybody's in on it. The problem is everybody's in an echo chamber and everybody's listening to the same rhetoric, and it's all the disposable humanity versus the 1%.
So there's a billionaire class of the 1% and the disposable humanity. It might have different shades, but it's the same human problem. And our planet is an interconnected, beautiful living planet which they pretended was a dead planet to exploit and plunder. The earth is rising, the young are rising, the women are rising, the workers are rising, the unemployed are rising, and all we need to see is the commonality rather than South, North, Black, White, Hindu, Muslim. All of these are, and men, women, all of these are constructed divisions of one common humanity, one planet.
I don't know if that's an accurate number, but the 1% is anybody that is making their living off of perpetuating heliocentric Earth. That includes Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo. Even though Eddie Bravo can advocate flat Earth, he is making his money being controversial. They understand they're influencers, they're entertainers. They are making their money entertaining you, the disposable humanity. Just like football players, there is no reason we should be off the gold standard. We should have still been on the gold standard, except for the government bullshit.
There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government solution. Here we are exactly 50 years later in 2021, deep into this global fiat currency experiment led by the United States, and things have really come off the hinges. I point people on this topic to this website, WTFhappened1971.com. This is not just economic, right? This is socioeconomic. There's obesity rates have spiked, drug addiction, suicide, clearly indebtedness, right?
You think this is tied to coming off the gold standard?
As the Austrians wrote a long time ago, the monetary standard and the moral standard are inexorably linked. And this gets back into property and time preference. When money's losing its value over time, we're all incentivized to be more short-term thinking. This is a de-civilizing force. And I think it is I don't want to say it's the sole cause for a lot of the cultural malaise we see in the world today, but I think it's a significant contributor.
Patient system is bullshit.
There's more slavery on this planet today than there ever was 150 years ago, folks. We're printing slaves right now, all across the planet. You're an inner city kid, and you're in Baltimore. You know what they're telling those kids? You need to go to college. Kids like, go to college? I ain't going to college. I can't even read. I have not checked into school for 3 years since I was 14. That's what that inner city kid is saying. The solution is you need a higher education. A higher education? What does that even mean? I don't even know what it means. It means you need to go spend 5 or 6 years in a prison. Oh, you need to borrow money to go to the prison. And we will give you a loan even if you can't pay the loan back. We take debt. We convince people it's a dream. Don't use debt unless it's for something we profess is the right thing, like a house.
A lot of people don't know this about the school system. In 1903, John D. Rockefeller founded the General Education Board. And within 5 years, adjusted for inflation, he would donate around $1.27 billion. In Rockefeller's own words, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. The school system was made to turn you into a worker.
NASA is bullshit. Heliocentric Earth is bullshit. Don't believe me? Fine. Continue living in this life. Continue working the insanity. That's insanity.
Don't you talk to me. They were insane.
Now you're talking semantics. What if I told you insane was working 50 hours a week in some office for 50 years, at the end of which they tell you to piss off, ending up in some retirement village, hoping to die before suffering the indignity of trying to make it to the toilet on time? Wouldn't you consider that to be insane?
I know there is more to it. All I'm asking you to do is want to change your life, if you really do, and just consider an alternate to what you have been told. That's it. Forget about what you think you know. Forget about what you've been taught. UFOs, ghosts, angels, demons, 9/11. Just consider what if you're wrong. Why you believe what you believe, and what if you're wrong. And if you're wrong, and if there is another truth, what are the implications that come with that? And then you're going to have to address your cognitive dissonance. That's an issue, but baby steps, one step at a time. Nobody will have any cognitive dissonance if they realize that the earth is flat. Airlines are still going to fly. Everybody's still going to go on with their days. But then let's take it to the next step. What if NASA's not? We all have contempt for the government in one way or another. Politicians, you will never be able to hold anybody accountable as long as the echo chamber are the only ones debating. Put any actual flat earth believer, take me, put me, my income is not based on the heliocentric model. Nobody would ever debate me on these issues because I'm not in the 1%. I don't make a living off the consumption of others. Struggle to make a living off my production working for somebody else. I don't have discretionary income to go do all these other things. But, people that want to go to the football games, go to the football games. You're giving them, people want to pay for Alpha Brain from Joe Rogan, you're paying him. You want to listen to his podcast, Lex Friedman, you want to do whoever you're listening to, buying Tesla cars. You are a product of a consumer-driven capital, and that's not bad. Capitalism's not bad, except it's involuntary. You don't have a say in what you spend your money on. You do, but you're falling for the marketing bullshit as well. Like, do you really care that Shaq is a spokesperson for General Insurance Company or whatever it is, or any major, any entertainer, any name of notoriety backing anything? How does that make it any more valid? Because they know how to attract your dollars, your consumer dollars. Nike and all the celebrities making alcohols, trying to get you to buy their alcohol. Like, okay, maybe you would, but do we really need to push the alcohol? Like, advertising's bullshit. Like, why do we need 60 different types of cereals? I mean, this is America. We got first world problems. Like, these are not problems. Having too many choices, okay, they had baby formula. That was a manufactured supply chain issue, just like every other, peanut butter, Jif peanut butter. It's nonsense. It's manufactured. Do you really think we're going to run out of food in this country when farmers are burning crops? No, nobody cares because you're just consumers. You're consuming the nonsense, the inflated prices, and then complaining about it, that it's Biden's fault or Trump's fault or whatever. No, we're off the gold standard's fault. It's Nixon's fault. It's the government's fault. $30 trillion in debt? Whose fault is that? I mean, it's just been escalating. Look back at WTF happened in 1971 and do your own research. And it's not going to take much. It really isn't. I'm not asking you to go deep down these dark rabbit holes and Operation Underground Railroad, or I'm not even asking you to go that far. But once you realize that we have been lied to, we have been taught lies, just look at the education system. It has to be manufactured conflict of one way or another. It's not black versus white. They have to keep pushing that. It is 100% the 1% versus the disposable humanity, the elites versus the sovereigns, the traitors versus the patriots. Traitors. That's an NFL game. Traitors versus the Patriots. Who's going to name their team the Traitors? I guess they could. That would have been an awesome name for the Washington football team. Oh my God, the Traitors. What the hell? That is awesome. The Washington Traitors going against the New England Patriots. The last game of the NFL where these guys make millions of dollars for playing a game. That would be an iconic game. Where football players are actually paid a normal wage. Where football owners aren't making billions of dollars for doing shit. Except pickpocketing us, robbing us. I haven't been to a game. How much is a beer? I mean, how much are tickets? It's freaking ridiculous. It's a football game. And you are consuming this nonsense because you want to be mindlessly entertained. I'm not saying football would disappear, but if you could go to a football game for $10 or $50 for the entire family to go all in, 100% all in, because the players want to play because they're passionate, because the owners want to own because they want to provide value and entertainment at a reasonable price. And it doesn't, that's music. And it's the same way. People will still make music. There'll be a hell of a lot more people making music because raising an effing star, right? If they could actually afford to do what they need to do to be successful, not because of the money, because it's a passion. If you're doing something that's your passion, you don't care about the money because the money will take care of itself. If you're worried about money, you're doing a job. You're working a job and you know it, but you just can't get out of your comfort zone. Get comfortable being uncomfortable and change. And it's just so easy. It's not all these gurus talking stuff. It's one belief, and that literally will open up the floodgates that will change your life and everybody else's life on earth. Simple as that. Just one belief. You already intuitively know it. Get it in your head and know it, and not just believe what you've been taught. And you don't want to do the research, don't do the research, but just consider the option that what you've been told is complete bullshit. And the burden of proof is on the heliocentrics to prove that it's round. And they can't do it. Nobody can do it. All they can do is tell you that it's round. They can't produce pictures. They can't, justify airlines. They don't use the rotation of the earth in the military. Snipers don't use the curvature of the earth. Missile guidance systems, radar, sonar. None of these things can work with a globe earth. None of them. Long-range photography. Gravity cannot be explained experimentally. The forces, density and buoyancy, period. End of discussion. It's just insane. Satellites, come on. Do you really care how you can get Hubble satellite images because they're microwave, right? And they're composites, they're images from data. But we can't even get 720p football on Sundays over satellite dish? Come on. And you're paying for it. You're paying for the nonsense. We're paying, I don't know how much, $300 for AT&T for shitty, that should be free. We're paying for cable, that should be free. Gig speed cable, that's so great. What's the speed of light? Why isn't there fiber to every single desktop? If it's, it's not the infrastructure, what do we continue to pay for? We have, burying fiber optic lines. Gee, thanks, so you can make more money. Charge us more for less, which should be free. Energy. Forget about coal. Green energy is bullshit. Forget about gas. It's not fossil fuels. It's an endless supply. We already have nuclear reactors. We already know about thorium reactors. That's been around for 30, 40 years? We know there's alien technology, UFOs, bending space-time. Is it that far of a stretch to think that they have some sort of energy field that does that? And then what about the Tesla coil? We already know about that. That's all legit. Why are we still paying why am I paying Georgia Power $300 a month to give me the energy that's rightfully ours? And it's, making money, making billions of dollars, I don't know how much profit, paying everybody. But what if all those people didn't have to work there? But because they could be pursuing what they want to do, their passions, because they don't have to pay for power. There still have to be people digging or scientists creating. That's all fine. Those are legitimate jobs, and those are people that already exist. But all the middlemen people that hate going to their 40-hour work week to answer phones, or linemen, there's still be linemen. We still have to run power lines until we go to wireless power. 0-point energy. All this is on the visible spectrum. It's invisible to you because your mind is preventing you from doing it. All of this stuff. Atlantis, the Amazon, Asgard. And it sounds crazy because it goes contrary to what you have been programmed to think exists in the Matrix. The first version of the Matrix, the original version of the Matrix.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Did you know that the first Matrix was designed to be a perfect human world where none suffered, where everyone would be happy? It was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost. Some believed that we lacked the programming language to describe your perfect world, but I believe that as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering. So the perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from. Which is why the Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization. And I say your civilization because as soon as we started thinking for you, it really became our civilization, which is, of course, what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus. Evolution. Like the dinosaur. Look out that window. You had your time. The future is our world, Morpheus. The future is our time.
Is exactly what the Wachowski brothers or sisters, I don't know, didn't know. Maybe they did know. I don't know. They made it a point to put, there was a version of the Matrix in there that everybody was happy and humanity rejected. Wait, well, maybe that goes back to Adam and Eve, if you believe that. I'm telling you, I know what it is, and it sounds so freaking crazy, except it's really not. It's not. A couple weeks ago, Angela told me that she doesn't think she wants to be a nurse anymore. And my immediate reaction was, that's horrible, because you're such a great nurse. Your patients love you. You put patients first, no matter what you were doing, bariatric, anywhere you were a nurse, hospice nurse, you comforted those people. That would be a huge loss to the medical field. And then it occurred to me why she said that. She's sick of the bullshit. She's sick of the way Wellstar treated her. She's sick of the way the hospice treated her. All the bureaucracy, all the other human bullshit involved with medicine, all the allopathic medicine. How many nurses left the medical field during COVID because of how they were treated? But she wanted to leave the medical field. And I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, it doesn't matter. I can't do anything. I have to stay in the medical field. I can't go back to school because we can't afford it. And it literally broke my heart. But I asked her what she wanted to do, because in the flat earth scenario, she would be able to do what she wanted to do. If she wanted to give care to people, because it's still going to have to be there, then she can do that and not be hamstrung with all the other nonsense that she has to go through. If that's her passion, she would be able to do that. Morgan's passion is tattooing. She'll still be tattooing. People still want tattoos. If you think about you, and you think about, you hit the lottery and you had enough money to forget about what you would buy, go crazy, do whatever. But what would you do with that money? Would you go and pay off your family's bills, make your child's education? Like, think of all the things that you would do. And what if you didn't have to choose? What if everybody was doing their passions and you were able to do it and still survive, because none of your other income, you wouldn't pay taxes, you wouldn't have to pay for medical insurance, because there's still going to be doctors that are passionate about helping people, that won't be hamstrung in the allopathic medicine. They could go to homeopathic. There's going to be homeopaths. There's going to be every single thing. There are every single thing that you can think of. People making movies, people sci-fi, entertainers. It's just the disparity between incomes, because what we value in entertainers and we don't value in actual people making a difference in the world, it levels out. So we actually pay for the value that people are contributing to society. That is the income that you would receive. And with that, you could do whatever you wanted. You wouldn't have to pay for power. You wouldn't have to pay for cable. You would have everything. You just wouldn't have to pay for it, because it would eliminate the need to have all the stock markets, the investments, Bitcoin. All these companies are existing. Public companies exist, the fiduciary duty to their stockholders. They need to make money. Private companies, entrepreneurs exist because they're passionate about something and they're doing the things the best way they know how. And yeah, turn a profit because they should be rewarded for their risk. But once you get to a certain point, why does Ed Bastian make $12.4 million being rewarded for the risks that he's taking with Delta? What? Why? No, let alone how is that fiduciarily proper to the shareholders? I mean, what value is he providing for $12.4 million? But all these companies exist to make a profit, and consequently, those profits have to come from somewhere, and they're coming from you, and they're going. They're paying for marketing, and they're paying for things to persuade you to use their brand or buy this music over that music. That's their passion. That's their job. Anybody that's creating something to be consumed, if they're not doing it because they're passionate and they're doing it just because they want the money for it, then they're faking it. Like actors, they're actors. Come on, why are they? Yeah, they're funny, but $20 million a movie funny? So I have to pay $20 to go to 40, but I don't even know how much it is to go to the movie. Come on. Or stream it. Now I got to pay streaming services, and it's all rolled back up, and it's all just, if all of it were gone and everybody was doing, there would still be people passionate about making movies. But more movies would be made, or you wouldn't even care, because then you would be able to go pursue your passion. So if your passion is, like, if you enjoy watching people play video games, which I don't understand, or watching people play golf, and you don't play golf because you can't afford it, right? But you really want to, well, go do it. Learn to play golf, learn to play tennis, learn to play piano, and then develop a passion from it. You have that free time, that opportunity to do it, because you're not always consuming something, and you actually have income to go do what you want to do. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy until we break that cycle. And breaking that cycle, spinning cycle, keeps going in a circle until you stop that force affecting it, right? Break that force, that bond that's they baked into your head and said that we really are spinning, the earth is a globe. These are not the droids you're looking for. It's a freaking Jedi mind trick. That's what it is. Over generations, starting back in the 40s and 50s. 60s, the space race came around. 70s, the Gen Xers, and the nail in the coffin was 1971, and everything started changing from there. And that's my generation, and I apologize for it, but we got to change it. We can change it now. I'm talking to all the parents of Homelander generation babies, 2005 till the present, all grandparents. If what I'm saying is true, consider the implications for them. Fine, it may be too late for you. You don't care. But do you really want your kids believing all this nonsense, or your grandkids believing all this nonsense about heliocentric Earth, and they can't prove it? And it's just what they say, and NASA's making billions of dollars, and we're going trillions of dollars. We're already $30 trillion in debt they're already inheriting. How are they going to pay that off? When are we going back to the gold standard? Never? No, not according to the current regime, the current globalists. Forget about all the conspiracy theories. Just think of it practically. Is that what you want? Most generations want more for their children, and everybody says that they do. Actions prove who you are. The images aren't real, and none of this affects you. Your life will not get any worse. It will get better by just this one simple change and shifting your mindset. Your brain is so powerful and remarkable. This is literally the first step. It's big. It's huge. It's huge. And it's real. You just have to stop regurgitating mindlessly what you've been taught. That's why you should care.